What do you get when Ad clones himself? Addition! There, the pun's out of the way, let's get started. Ad compliments Lucille as one half of the final round of Elsword's renewals. And he gets my favorite promo costume. I feel like that was worth noting for no particular reason, so just take this moment to enjoy it. Anyhow, this renewal is actually quite interesting, considering Ad himself is the second most recent character. So being a more recent character, you might expect that Ad didn't receive a lot of changes or additions to his various classes. But in fact, you'd be wrong. He actually received numerous changes to all of his classes. And the core of the renewal, the removal of the skill tree selection mechanic, truly does benefit him. So let's take a look. Mastermind. Oh, Mastermind. Wait, no, not that. There we go. Yes, that Mastermind. As with previous videos, I'm going to cover the Ad I know the least about first. Mastermind got a couple new combos, but oddly not as many as his brothers, since the Arc Tracer job seems to be somewhat neglected in this regard. That said, he gets a neat little addition to a couple of his combos, resulting in Electro Blitz and Particle Blast Rain, the latter of which is an aerial attack. As for changes with Mastermind's skills, the most noteworthy is that Panzerbuster no longer decreases damage over distance. And to be honest, this doesn't make a lot of sense to me, since graphically it does decrease, but games never tend to show a lot of logic. Regardless, it's a cool change, and you get to do more damage, so who cares about logic? Along with that, Mastermind received only a small number of changes, but each one is actually pretty distinct. In general, a few skills do more damage, a few have had their casting speed reduced, and a few don't require as much MP as before. There are some more subtle changes to the skills as well, though. Notably to some of the install skills, like Drone Activator, which now resets certain cooldown times after activation. I can't say exactly how much of an effect this has on playstyle, unfortunately, simply because I hadn't spent enough time with Mastermind before the renewal to know if this kind of thing would be beneficial. What I can say, though, is that overall it seems to be a pretty good renewal. He's actually come to a point where, from what I can tell, he's not only a great asset in PvE, scoring MVP with really very minimal effort, but also quite the catching wizard in PvP. Huh. And now with that out of the way, let's move on to the coolest looking Ad. Did I say that out loud? Please send your hateful comments to the email address on the screen. Thank you. So, Diabolic Esper. He's pretty wicked in PvP, but that's not what I'm here to talk about. That'd be a surprise, wouldn't it? Anyway, his PvE changes are the ones I've been exposed to most, and I will say it's not the kind of improvement I expected. I think Diabolic Esper's biggest advantage simply comes from the skill tree renewal itself. The ability to use both Gravity Buster and Moonlight Rhapsody is just truly amazing. That, by itself, is enough for me to say yippee about this whole renewal. And the fact that you can get Gravity Buster way earlier at level 15 instead of 55 is a great perk too. Now, what I had hoped for out of this renewal was for combos that were improved and made to sync up with his skills a bit better so that he felt a bit more fluid all around. Instead, he did get a few combos, which is great, but they really don't seem to synergize with the skills. They're good for making strings of combos, but I don't feel like they're good for stringing combos and skills together. Am I making any sense here at all? Anyway, Diabolic Esper's overall changes were nice. The most notable combo addition is Spatial Sphere, which lets you start an aerial attack and then warp to the platform below to continue it from the ground, which is a really neat little tactical move. He got a few others, but they don't seem as useful or as unique as that one. As for his skills, well, they're an improvement to be sure. Just the reorganization of them is an improvement, but there's still something about him. Even though I can get higher scores, do more damage, and use better skill synergies, he just hasn't improved as much as I'd come to expect. And I think this is because he's a newer character. He was already powerful and fun to play, so there just wasn't much room to improve that without making him greatly imbalanced over other characters. And I'm okay with that. That leaves us with the Psyker. His biggest change is the addition of numerous combos, which, like his brothers and unlike his previous combos, do not require being in Nasod armor mode to use. This is honestly a welcome relief, at least for me, who spends just as much or more time outside of that mode as in it. The combos are pretty varied too, so they cover a nice set of scenarios in both the air and on the ground. You've got plasma lasers in the air that can be used to shoot an arc of plasma strikes at the ground. Plasma Excel that lets you charge the enemies with a ball of energy. Forward Smash that lets you rush your enemy and smash it with energy. Static Geyser lets you kick backward a wave of energy. and Ground Smash that lets you fall from the sky and smash the ground with an energy explosion. They're all really handy and complement the existing skills well, even allowing you to transition nicely into Naysod armor combos. Lunatic Psyker also got a fairly decent skill revamp. One of my favorite points of his skill changes is that Quicksilver Frenzy was merged into Psychic Storm. Previously I felt like Frenzy was too much MP for what it gave you, but now that they have the effects of Psychic Storm with them, it feels a lot more useful. Stasis Field also feels a lot more impressive now. It's totally worth the 300 MP usage for its massive range and damage. And when I say massive, I mean massive. A couple of their skills got tweaked and played around with, but nothing even comes close to the significance of those two particular skills. I've also really found myself in touch with the ability to lay down 6 pylons at once. Other than that though, Lunatic Psyker hasn't changed much. I know what you're thinking, but those changes are enough, right? And yes, they kind of are. But what's interesting to me is that unlike Runeslayer or Deadly Chaser, whose radical changes actually forced a bit of an adjustment in playstyle, Lunatic Psyker's vast set of changes keeps his playstyle pretty consistent with what it was before. Aside from having to learn a few new combos and remap your skill slots, you can pretty much play exactly as you did before, but better. All in all, Lunatic Psyker was fun to play before, and a pretty strong, quick character. He remains that way now. Though I don't feel like he's much stronger in terms of raw damage, he definitely has better skill utilization, and the non-Naysod armor combo additions are awesome. And that's all for the individual character renewals. I mentioned at the start of this video that I thought Ads was one of the most interesting renewals, but I didn't mention why I thought that. I'm kind of saving that for a video next week when I'll do a summary and kind of compare and contrast each of the renewals in turn. And since I know you'll all be bored while you wait for that video to come out, feel free to check out some of the other videos on the screen in the meantime. Until next time guys, I'll see you later.